How does sea level rise cause saltwater intrusion in polar areas? Imagine the icy edges of the world slowly giving way as water from the ocean pushes inland. That's what happens when sea levels rise, especially in the cold, fragile regions near the poles. Rising sea levels are mainly caused by two things: melting ice from glaciers and ice caps, and the expansion of ocean water as it warms. When the ice melts, it adds more water to the oceans, making them higher. Warmer water takes up more space, which also raises sea levels. In polar areas, much of the land close to the coast is covered by permafrost, silt or sediment that stays frozen all year. As sea levels go up, salt water begins to move into these coastal soils and groundwater systems that were once frozen or fresh. Salt water is denser and has a lower freezing point than fresh water, so it can seep into cracks and pores in the soil more easily. This movement of salt water inland is called saltwater intrusion. Because the salt water pushes into the land, it causes the permafrost to thaw faster. When the frozen ground melts, it weakens the land's structure and causes it to sink or retreat. This process is called land subsidence. As the land drops and the salt water moves further inland, it replaces the fresh water that used to fill the soil and groundwater. This change in water chemistry can harm plants and animals that depend on freshwater or frozen conditions. The intrusion of salt water also speeds up erosion along the coast. When permafrost thaws, it becomes less stable and more vulnerable to waves and storms. This leads to more land loss, which makes it easier for salt water to move even further inland. This creates a feedback loop. Rising seas cause salt water to invade, which thaws more permafrost, leading to more land sinking and more saltwater intrusion. This process threatens the entire coastal ecosystem. It can destroy habitats for native animals and plants, and it impacts indigenous communities that relying on the land and water for their way of life. The releases of greenhouse gases from thawing permafrost also adds to global warming, making the problem worse. Understanding how sea level rise causes salt water to move into polar regions helps us see why protecting these areas is so important. Monitoring sea levels, permafrost conditions, and saltwater movement helps scientists predict which areas are most at risk. It also guides efforts to protect habitats, manage freshwater supplies, and prepare for the changes that are coming. In short, as sea levels rise, salt water is pushed into coastal soils and groundwater in polar areas. This causes permafrost to thaw faster, land to sink, and ecosystems to face serious threats. Recognizing this chain of events is key to finding ways to conserve and adapt to these environmental challenges.